This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending our NSA Professional Services Series webinar today with EDI, with our partner Unilink. So Unilink has been in the EDI arena with distributors for over 24 years. They've been a great partner of NSA for some time, and I really appreciate their participation today, as well as everybody that's attending today's session. As we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. I would ask that everybody please mute your lines. There's a couple that are still open. If you could please do that during the presentation, that'll help us keep the noise down. We really appreciate that. Everybody attending today's session will receive a follow-up thank you email with a link to this recorded session, so you will have that as well. If you do have questions during the session, I would ask that you click on the chat box and enter your questions into the chat, and our presenters will be able to address those at the end. We should have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of today's session. So what I'd like to do is start with the introduction of our presenters, and I'm going to introduce one, and that individual will introduce the other. So I'd like to introduce Tony Palermo, and you can see Tony's information brought up here on the screen. He's the Director of Marketing for Unilink, and he's been with the organization and providing EDI services for over 5 years. And his whole career has really been focused on business process automation. So EDI obviously fits nicely into that particular role. Tony, welcome, and I'll let you introduce your teammate.
Well, thank you very much. You see the picture on the screen, and then you see me in the video. So it is not fair to ask a question at the end of what the heck has happened to you over the years. So I am a bit older than the age of the picture. We're very excited to be here today. We want to thank NSA, Brian, Patrick, Carrie, the rest of the team. They have been great partners. And I think one of the reasons why we work well together is we are both focused on the success of our clients. That is our #1 priority. And that certainly comes out loud and clear every time we have a discussion or a work session with the folks at NSA. So thank you very much, Brian. I am the pretty face, so I'm going to introduce now sort of the brains. Phil, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello to everyone. My name is Phil Harley. I'm the General Manager for the Unilink Group. And again, my focus is on the software, the programming, and all the EDI management. And I've been doing that for about 25 years now.
Okay. So here's what we're going to talk about this afternoon, and we'll try to make it as entertaining and as informative as possible. You know, what's going on today about manual input? Certainly, the whole manual front has changed over the last year. If we've learned anything over the last year, it's that it is absolutely essential that we connect electronically with our vendors and with our customers. And then where does an EDI partner fit? What are some of the recent trends? Talk a little bit about the total cost of ownership, and that applies to whether or not you're looking at in-house implementation, or you may have a certain percentage of your business that you connected via EDI years ago, and now you have to maintain what's there. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about some of the successful elements of an EDI solution. So as you mentioned before, Unilink has been in the EDI business for over 20 years, specializing the majority of the time in SXE and distribution. We're sort of independent or agnostic because of the way we work. We can work with any ERP system, and actually we work with hundreds of ERP systems because we have to connect our customers and vendors to the system, and they comprise hundreds of different flavors of ERP systems. We're 100% SaaS model in the cloud. That's where we've always been. And We have had significant growth over the last year. Like everybody, we were all concerned last February what the impact would be on our business. And I can tell you that we've had record month over record month. And the reason is that our customers were successful last year because they were connected. And we had a lot of companies who were rushing to take the high ground and to get connected to their customers for future business and business development. So we shouldn't have to spend a lot of time on this topic. You know, I can just say paper bad, EDI good, and go on to the next slide for all the reasons that are listed here. And again, now we're looked at a new normal that's going to be emerging out of this last year and a half of what we've learned, and having workforces that are dispersed and customers' workforces that are dispersed, communicating back and forth with their systems, and then being able to access that information from home or from other places is going to be critical to the ongoing running of our businesses. Not to mention the fact that paper, there's a lot of inaccuracies associated with that. It certainly is not efficient and costly, as we'll talk about. So we looked at different metrics. We come up with that it costs about $15 to process a manual PO. And Honeywell challenged us on that and said, we'd like to look at it on a per line basis. And they looked at it, it was 51 cents per line. When we multiplied it out times the average number of lines on a PO, we came up with $15. So we think that that's a good number. You can say it's 14, you can argue it's 17. Everybody's business is a little bit different, but the bottom line is, and we just use $1 for math purposes, if we can change that $14 or $15 to $1 and provide other benefits, that is real savings that is dropping to the bottom line of your business, just real cost comparisons that not only drops to the bottom line, but it is repetitive, it's recurring every month. So what's typical for EDI today is we have customers across the gambit. Some came to us with 100% manual and started from scratch. Some have very limited application, a few connections they may have done 5, 10, 15 years ago, when in fact it was a bear. I mean, EDI wasn't always as streamlined as it is today. Some were brought to the table under duress by their vendor or customer saying, hey, you either connect with us or go find somebody else, or we'll go find somebody else. And oftentimes it was just perceived as an expense reduction project only. So we think that just the times have changed, especially over the last year and a half. And we're seeing more and more companies moving to EDI, and probably less than half the companies in the country are even have an EDI platform today. And there's probably another 25% that have an old system that costs them a fortune to maintain, it's unreliable, and they're looking for a more reliable, consistent platform to replace their older system. And then there's the high-end customers who have huge IT departments. They're probably doing a lot of it themselves internally. So what are the options? The options are you can do it in-house. You'll certainly need internal resources. You'll need day-to-day monitoring, day-to-day researching issues and solving problems. You can go to sort of a web EDI product. Some people have put these systems up where people can get into their portal and they can place an order through the portal, but that doesn't really solve the problem because the other end still has to turn around and manually input that data into their ERP system. So although they serve their purpose at one point in time, portals aren't necessarily the way to go in the future. It's just too easy in today's world to move to a total EDI footprint. And that's certainly what our suggestion is. And then there's managed services like us. Now, throughout the presentation, I may just tend to sound salesy, but I'm not. I'm just passionate. We are single, our purpose is very narrow and our focus is strictly on the implementation of EDI solutions for our customers. So what does an EDI partnership really look like? Well, here are some things that you definitely should consider whoever you decide to partner with. It has to be an end-to-end one source product. One neck to choke. You don't want to be put in a situation where there's three parts and each of the three parts are always pointing at one of the other ones when a problem occurs or there's a delay. You certainly want to go with somebody who's trusted, proven provider, somebody that has worked in your space, understands your ERP system, has a track record and a large customer base in your space. Certainly you want to work with a company that has extreme customer care, customer sat, can prove it, and has built their company on that reputation. And then that partner has to be proactive in remaining compliant with all the standards and the protocols and all the new EDI forms and formats that are available. Some other criteria that I think is very, very important criteria is it has to be guaranteed success. I mean, signing a multi-year contract for thousands of dollars and you haven't established the first connection yet is not the type of partnership that I think you will want to engage in. And I'll talk a little bit more about guaranteed success as we move through the presentation. You shouldn't have any CapEx. And if you have CapEx now because you are doing EDI on a limited basis, you can certainly free that CapEx up and all the expenses associated with that. The partnership has to be able to demonstrate a very well-defined implementation plan that frees up resources on your end and is responsible for the coordination ongoing with your trading partners. It doesn't do you any good to establish an EDI connection with our data center if the adoption rate by your partners and customers is very low. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, but we have an extremely high adoption rate on our projects because we have a technology called Smart Maps that does not require any of your trading partners or customers to make any changes to their ERP system. We handle that in the logic of our Smart Maps. And then, of course, the other criteria that's very important is automated exception reporting and correction, and a full service portal that gives you visibility on what's happening on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis on your transactions. So here's a few things that are interesting. If you look at the recent trends, we do millions of transactions a month, and I would say 80% plus fall into the core four, or the big four as we call them: PO acknowledgement, advanced shipping notices, and invoices. Now, forward-thinking companies are starting to understand how important this is in expanding their sales and giving them a competitive edge over a competitor who is still trying to do business in a manual manner. Customers are becoming much more savvy. Think about it just from your own perspective. When you go on to Amazon and you want to purchase something, it's easy to search for it. They tell you whether or not it's an inventory. You put it in your basket. They immediately acknowledge that they've got your PO, and oftentimes within minutes, you get an advanced shipping notice. That's the way the next generation is used to dealing with the whole purchasing or selling process. So it becomes table stakes that you can provide that sort of seamless and timely response to processing commerce with your customers and your vendors. Also, let me go back one. There's more to just those 4 transaction types. We have several advanced customers that are using the EDI forms for all the rebate processes. And it definitely improves their accuracy, their timing. When they receive their rebates, we had a customer speak on our behalf at a trade show, and he was showing them where on 20% of their relationships, they were getting their rebate before they were getting the invoice for the products that they had purchased. So it's pretty. There's a lot of other benefits of branching out, but for the most part, we're focusing on the key 4. So we talked about manual. We talked about the cost savings that are there. There are a lot of hidden costs of ownership associated with attempting to do this in an in-house fashion. You got to buy software and hardware. There's annual maintenance fees. You've got upgrades and compatibility issues that you have to deal with. You have to hire personnel and train those people. There's an initial learning curve. There's a lot of retraining because of turnover. People come into this, they learn their craft on EDI, and then they want to go out in other areas of the business. And so it just seems like the stories we've heard is that they can never keep anybody in the job, and they're always in that phase of training. And then you have to look beyond just getting the electronic connection established and tested. There's ongoing support and monitoring. Your trading partners and your customers are going to make changes on their end that are going to disrupt a transaction, and having people assigned to dealing with that and correcting that is essential. So on top of that, you've got van fees. You've got mapping software. We talked about training and the cost of turnaround, and the fact that you've got to continue to provide coverage. Everybody has limited resources, especially in their IT departments. There's always more projects to get done than there are people. And so we want to tell you that yes, we do need a little time from your EDI related people on staff, but only a little bit of time, and their functions can certainly be diverted to other IT projects that you have on your plate. So it's very important that when you're looking at doing this internally, that you really realize your cost, your total cost of ownership, and put a number to that, and then look at how many transactions you can process working through an EDI provider for that same amount of money, or in a lot of cases, it costs a lot less. So the clear cost of ownership gets diminished significantly when you outsource that, because it includes all of the communications, translation, maintenance, and ongoing support. Some of the outsourcing strategic benefits are you're working with a company who lives, breathes EDI. Companies that are adaptable, they know all the new transaction types, keeps track of all the ERP upgrades that are going on. It's our business focus. so that you can maintain your business focus. Again, no capital outlay, customer service differentiation, and of course, increased revenue, reduced overhead, and the ROIs are, and the paybacks are pretty remarkable. You can choose to use that $14 delta if you're in a manual state today, and multiply that by the number of transactions that you deal with any one vendor, because there are mapping fees, and mapping fees are the only one-time fees that apply. So the math is easy. You divide the number of transactions by the $14 or $15, and you see, like, if your net is $10 a transaction, you only have to do 20 transactions throughout ever in order to pay back for the mapping of the form from your vendor or from your customer into the system. So we can help you with all that. As you decide to go to the next step, we can really refine the math, refine the payback and the ROI calculations. We understand what the EDI coordinators face. Meeting customer enablement timelines are important. Proper monitoring of the production data, the automated alerts, keeping up with the changes in EDI technologies, and what's very, very important is making sure that there is business continuity and backup built into the whole transport system. We usually have questions and answered here, but since we have so many people, we're going to wait and catch those on the back end. So we'll talk a little bit about smart maps. Smart maps are really a way for us to reduce the change and the expense that you or any of your trading partners or customers have to go through. We can implement so many different rules and processes in a smart map that can extend the functionality, improve the compliance with existing systems that are out there that your trading partners and customers are using. And those maps can go from you know, a few tweaks here and there, and we're up and running. And like in the automotive industry, it's very, very complex. We have maps that are hundreds of lines of code, if not thousands. So you have to look at how you enhance your own network. You have to look into your network and make sure that it can accommodate this example of changes, cross-references for mutual ship tos, handling drop ships, product number conversions, date offsets, unit of measure, and other custom and cross-reference and conversions that may be happening at either end of the transaction, your trading partners or yours. So a lot of times people think of EDI as a connection with their vendors, a way for you to submit a PO to them and go through the purchasing process. But that value can very easily be extended to your customers, and you can set up the same processes in the reverse, sending invoices, advanced ship notice, and PO acknowledgements, etc., to your customer. So the issue of process automation is again more than just dealing with your vendor. It's dealing with your business and your business relationships, where you can streamline your processing and at the same time possibly offering services that your competitor does not or cannot. So when you look at the big picture, it's more about just that cost savings, and you'll have to put your pen to paper and come up with the efficiency measures that you get to go along with those cost savings. But it is the competitive advantage. It's the sales differentiator. It's being out on the leading edge of customer service, making sure that your reputation is one of being easy to do business with and responsive and quick. And also the effect it has on inventory and turns. If you think about the hours or the days of delay that take place in manual input of this information, when you're in the EDI world, you're getting almost a real-time view of your inventory and of the projected near-term turns. So when you're looking at a one-stop EDI solution like a Unilink, these are some of the checkpoints. Business qualified document fees, include advanced services, advanced mapping, project management, implementation coordination, not just implementation coordination, but a proven, time-tested implementation coordination that releases a lot of your people to be repurposed and to work on other projects. And as your business grows, you don't necessarily have to keep adding people because the number of transactions are going up because it's automated. We have decades of mapping and production support expertise, continuity of support, and I would add it's pretty easy to budget each year what your EDI platform expense is going to be. You know what your revenues are going to be, the number of POs and transactions that you're going to have to process, and it's very easy to back into our schedule to determine exactly what that is going to cost. We do not have complex multi-year agreements. Our agreements are 2 pages. We think it's month to month. We feel like we have to earn your business every single month. There's 2 types of fees. There's a one-time fee, which is on a per map basis. And then there's transactional fees, and there's a schedule, and the more you process, the less the transaction cost is. There are no other hidden costs. Phil, you want to talk a little bit about the diagram?
Sure. The diagram here is kind of giving you a visual picture of where we stand here. You at the top here as a Unilink customer makes this single connection to the Unilink system here, and then we handle everything else from there. Any of your customers, any of your suppliers, through any buying groups, through any connection methodology necessary here. And the documents formats, of course, could be any that are in use today: XML, EDI, X12, PDFs, really any preference here. And the protocols, we support all communication protocols: FTP, SFTP, VANs, email, universal. We offer a free client software for being able to communicate with our data center, so there's no cost for even doing that piece of the thing is automated. This is just showing different document types being able to flow through the system. They could come from different sources or all one sources.
Okay. We talked a little bit about our portal. Phil will send a link over to Brian, so when he sends out the email, the thank you email, it'll also include the link to a 2.5-minute video that walks you through our advanced portal. And we're always working on this portal to make it more robust as we take input from our customers. But we just want to make sure we tick that box to let you know that having visibility, having an advanced portal is a very important element to the EDI solution for you. So the end all question is, what can your company reasonably take on today? EDI is on everybody's list if they're not already there to do next year. and it may be number 6 or number 7 on the list. And the IT department does a great job, but they usually get through number 5 at the end of the year, and then the list gets remade, and sure enough, EDI is 6 on the list again, and you just don't get to it. We can get you up and running faster and at less cost than you can even have your next meeting to discuss what your options are. And I'll tell you about that in more detail in just a second. You have to look at the cost of inaction. What is the cost of keeping things exactly like they are today? And will that even play in our new normal? People talk about, oh, any month now we'll be back to normal. Yeah, things will start seeming like they're normal, but it's going to be a new normal. And I think we all have to be prepared to deal with that new normal very quickly. And again, inventory turns are just one, but there's many different other ancillary business efficiencies that are benefits of a good EDI platform. And again, these cases, they really do rapidly pay for themselves, and the ROIs are staggering. They just are, because the entry cost to get into EDI when you're dealing with a third-party provider like ourselves, a value-added provider, the entry level bar is so low, and the cost benefit and the efficiencies are so high that it's just a no-brainer. You know, there's so many times throughout my career working with companies when I wanted to add a system, or I want to even build a new warehouse. Contractors, whether they be in the technology world or in the construction world, always have that conversation with you, that there's quality, there's cost, and time, and you get to pick 2 of those. If you want it quick and you want high quality, it's going to cost a lot. If you want to keep your costs down, but you have to have quality, it's going to take a long time. Always just 2 of the 3. And I can honestly tell you from a businessman's perspective, when you move into the EDI space and your EDI platform starts to grow, you get all 3. And that just doesn't happen very often in business. But as you run the numbers, you'll find very quickly that all 3 of those come into play. So the next move is yours. I've stole the whole change agent concept from a conference I went to, but doing nothing is very expensive. I think anytime you do something reactive, it's going to cost more than if you were proactive. Possibly the loss of a customer, or pricing from a vendor because you're not being able to communicate with them in such a efficient manner. Remember, if you're currently in-house, don't think that you're there. Look at, we just had a customer the other day that signed a contract with us. They had a homegrown system using some third-party product that wanted an upgrade fee of $15,000, and every time they had a problem, they had to go to a third-party company, consulting company, to come in and fix it. So their cost of ownership was through the roof, and we were able to replace their whole system at a much, much, much lower cost. And again, if you partner, we'd love to have your business. We'd love for you to give us a try, but make sure that you do business with somebody who offers you a success-based experience and a very predictable cost. So the question is, you're ready to move from manual? You know, our premise is you can definitely do it, but you can't do it indefinitely. You can't stay manual. Old boss of mine used to tell me, you either get on the steamroller or you become part of the road. And then that's the negative side. The positive is I must do something will always solve more problems than something must be done. And if you're interested enough to spend an hour with us this afternoon, you are the change agent, and it's your responsibility to do something and to make your business more efficient and more successful. Phil, you want to talk a little bit about some stats they may be interested in?
Sure. We have, as this says, we have 24 active Infor CSD customers. We have 16 that we migrated from SXE. We have a full queue of 82 more that are planning on that move here for some time during this year. And of course, we support all of the popular communication methods here and all the popular file native formats. The BOD is the CSD XML version variety, but we support CXML and normal XML, any EDI standards, X12, Edifact, Tradecom, any of the defined standards for how to do EDI anywhere in the world, we can be able to support.
Right. Okay, let me move to the offer that we've worked with NSA on. We're trying to make it easy. You have to start somewhere, and you don't have to look at this. You don't have to eat the elephant all at once. Take a bite at a time. And so we put this offer together where you can select 5 trading partners in 2 standard forms, any 2 of the 4, and we will connect you to our data center with those 2 forms and your 5 trading partners, and you can test drive it. You can see that it works, and we'll do that for just a flat fee of $999, and and that is all inclusive, and there won't be any transaction fees paid until July 1st. So you get a couple months of transactions included. And as I've said before, attending one more meeting to talk about it will probably cost you more than $999. If you're in a manual state today, 100% manual or less than 50% of your business is EDI, then this is a great way to get in and see what a high quality company can do at no risk to you and for a very low cost. So that's the offer. Questions? Do we have questions queued up?
Yeah, so I don't see any in the chat box. I did want to invite anybody that wants to ask a question to feel free to open your line and ask in an audio way. I'd like to just point to a couple things. First of all, I want to thank Unilink, again, not only for their partnership with NSA, but for this very attractive special offer. I would encourage anybody that's interested to please make sure you take advantage of this. It certainly shows their confidence level as well in delivering that ROI to you by putting in the necessary work for very, very low cost here to kind of get things started. The other thing I wanted to cover off is, not unlike Unilink, we have many of our clients that are migrating to Cloud Suite over the next year or 2 years, and we've already done a number of them. There's no need to wait on executing your EDI until you make that move to Cloud Suite. You can do it on your current on-prem SXE system if that's what you're using today, and that'll come along with you, to the Cloud Suite. I would just ask either Tony or Phil, can you talk just a little bit as to what's involved for a client if they're already on the Unilink EDI on an on-prem solution and they go to Cloud Suite? How much effort is there involved and what's involved in making that move happen?
Phil, it's all you.
Right, no problem. I'm just answering a question that came in on the chat. All right, the the transition, the migration from SXE to CSD does involve a remapping because the formats are completely different from the on-prem SXE to the CSD format. But it's typically only on the one side here. Usually your trading partners or customers, whoever's on the other side of the transaction, won't really see any difference. Now, we typically do ask them to retest just to make sure that they see everything, but if they're not capable of doing that, we can verify that the documents that you send out are now looking exactly like the documents that you sent out on SXE. So because we've already done the mapping for you one time, we'll still have to do that one-time mapping to do the CSD, but that's it. Nothing else will really change. And the impact is relatively low on your side as far as what's required to do the EDI portion.
Right. So we're really talking about literally hundreds of dollars to move your connection from you to our data center to the cloud formats. All of the hard work really is out in the trading partner and customer network, because that's where the numbers are. That's where all the different maps are, and they will not require change. It's just the connection between your CSD and our data center.
Terrific. Yeah, I'd like to do a couple things in the chat area. I'd like to express to everybody the chat question that was asked by Barb. Thank you for that, Barb. And there's another one here from Brad as well. And we'll share that, and then I'll ask you gentlemen, to please answer the question from Brad. But Barb had asked, which customer portals have you worked with?
Right. I'm trying to get that answered right now.
Have you specifically worked with Epicor Eclipse system?
Yes, we have.
Okay, great. And then Brad asks, how are the transaction fees calculated?
Right.
Okay,
And go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I can take that. We have a minimum of $150 per month, and that includes the first 150 transactions. Then it's a sliding scale. I don't recall off the top of my head what the breakpoints are, but it goes to 85 cents to 65 cents to 55. It just depends on the volume. We have some customers that are well below the 25 cent on average because of the tens of thousands of transactions that they do each month. So
yeah, which makes sense. That's a win-win, right?
I'm sorry?
I said that's a win-win, because every single EDI transaction that takes place is far less effort for a customer and costs them far less. And with the volume that they're doing, they can take advantage of volume discounts on a per transaction level as they grow.
Exactly. Keep in mind, every transaction that goes through that's not manual, you're saving $14 or $15 and getting higher quality. Now, we don't expect you guys to hang up the phone and call us tomorrow and say, okay, we're ready to go. We need to have, if you're interested, we can have a 45-minute call. We'll get our technical folks on, our sales folks on, we'll send you a copy of our agreement. We can answer any of the detailed questions that are specific to your company. We can talk about ROI calculations and payback periods and things like that. So we really appreciate everyone's time today, and we are available. You have our contact information, or you can always get to us through NSA, through Brian's team. But we'd love to work with you, and we think we are a very good choice.
Great. Well, I do appreciate a lot of the questions that are coming in. I'll give our audience one last chance for any final questions that they might want to ask. And while we're waiting on that, I'll just mention that to be reminded that this session was recorded. You guys will get a copy of the recording. And as Tony had mentioned, there's actually a video of the portal as well. So that will also be included for you. And I would encourage you to please take advantage of this special offer. If this is something you guys are looking to do, we're very appreciative of Unilink for putting a special offer together exclusively for our webinar participants to be able to go ahead and get this thing started off. All right, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. We're going to give you folks back 10 more minutes of your day. And again, I want to thank our special guests, Tony Palermo and Phil Harley as well for their participation. And thank you all for your time on today's session.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good rest of your day, folks.